Welcome back, folks, to our miniseries, The Lone Screenplay Winners, where we talk about films that solely won an Oscar for the writing categories. My name is Matthew Anderson, and today we have back on the podcast Christian Bayanora. Hannah, how you doing today?
Hello, it's me, Christian, aka the Hannahcast, aka the Honora is over party guy. And now that Can has come and gone, it's no longer Honora's reign.
Yeah.
No more Honora, I say.
Yeah, I should also let you know, these last couple episodes that we've been punching out, I can't remember if I already specified this for My American Uncle and The Big Short, but we are recording, much like the last two, we are recording this one way far down the line. In fact, I didn't even realize literally a day or two before you came on for this episode, I didn't realize that this episode will be out around like mid to late June. So I'm like, okay, yeah, I think I could start, calming the F down and be like, okay, take a breather, Matt. You got through. You're like a month ahead of the game, hopefully. It's okay to take a breather for a little bit. So that's what I'm probably gonna do after we're done recording this episode. But before we we're not even close to the end of this. We actually just started. So I don't know about you, Christian, but I think we could just get started in our film discussion. A film that you chose from this mini-series, list I gave you. So the film we'll be discussing is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, which will be full-on spoilers. We encourage that, as always, watch the movie first and then come back to hear our full thoughts on the film. In fact, I would highly urge you do that, especially for this film, because I think this is one that everyone should give a chance at watching, because I have a little story behind this I'll get into when we talk about the discussion itself. But regardless, so the film itself was directed by Michel Gondry, who also has a story by credit with Pierre Bismuth, who worked on the film as a conceptual artist as well. The main writer on the film, though, is Charlie Kaufman. And if you don't know who Charlie Kaufman is, he has written, I wouldn't say it feels like hundreds of films, but he's written about a handful of films, such as Being John Malkovich, Adaptation he had a hand in writing, Anomalisa, all of which got Oscar nominations, and Charlie Kaufman also got 2 screenplay nominations for John Malkovich and Adaptation, and his fictional twin brother got a Oscar nomination as well for the latter, which I think it's pretty funny that they allowed that to happen. I'm almost curious to know what would have happened if he won the adapted screenplay Oscar. Like, would he have just gone on stage and just just have like a lookalike show up with him? I don't know. So
I'm kind of wondering if Adaptation is like the only time a fictional person ever got nominated for an Oscar.
Yeah, that wasn't like a pseudonym for someone. Yeah, like a legit fictional character. Yeah, I won. It probably was, maybe. I didn't get a chance to look at that. I'll look at that later, though. But
it's not like Charlie Kaufman was trying to hide behind it.
No, he wasn't. No, it's just like, hey, I get double credits. So regardless, though, yeah, and for the record, I haven't seen Being John Malkovich yet. I own a Blu-ray copy of it. I didn't get a chance to watch it before this episode, but I have seen Adaptation. And anyone who's interested in seeing more of Charlie Kaufman's work, I'd highly urge and recommend you watch Adaptation as well. Really, really good screenplay. Have you seen it yet, Christian, or no?
Funny if I'm exactly the opposite of you. I've seen Being John Malkovich, but I have not seen Adaptation.
Okay, yeah, this will be an interesting discussion then. But yeah, no, I would highly recommend Adaptation, if nothing else, just to see the Brian Cox screenplay scene. It's hilarious. It was so funny to watch. But regardless, so we're getting off topic already. We're not even we're only like 2 or 3 minutes in. We're like, all right, anyways. So the premise of the film, in case you don't know what it is, it's essentially revolves around a couple who undergoes a medical procedure to have each other's erased from their memories forever after their relationship turns sour. And that's pretty much the basic gist of it. For me to go into any more, I mean,
it's a spoiler review, so you might as well.
Yeah, because it pretty much, like, it tells you from the bat, it's like, yeah, this isn't gonna go the way you think it's gonna go. And we'll get into the structure a bit, but before I do, because again, there's so much we could talk about this film. I think this is one where we could do a whole long episode. We probably won't go too long with this one, like we did with Disaster Artist. We'll try not to. But if we do, it's just, guys, there's just so much we could talk about with this. But I first want to ask you, Christian, since you were the one who decided to cover this for the podcast when you came back on, why was it that this was one film that you wanted to discuss?
Because Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind is like one of my favorite movies of all time. Like when I saw this film when I was like a teenager, I was like, whoa. I didn't completely understand it, but it was one of those things where it's like I was still very much captivated by it. Like, its story is so unique. I can't think of anything like this, and like, it's so imaginative, and ignore the blaring motors outside of my window right now.
Yeah,
but,
you're good. You're good.
Yeah. But Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind is so... It's so creative, and it's kind of hard to put into words like how well written and how clever this film really is. And it's like... there's so many different ways. Every time I watch Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, I also discover something new out of it. I discover new meanings of it. I discover really more about the characters, and we'll definitely talk about the characters later on, but man, like, it really is a very unique, special film, and I can almost see why it didn't initially get nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars. Because, like, it's one of those films that you really have to sit and think on, even though this came out in March, so you could also argue, well, so it's like, why didn't you guys watch it before? But, but then you had to, because you compare it to other films that had, like, that where you kind of immediately knew how you felt about them coming out of them, like Finding Neverland or $1 Million Baby or The Aviator or Ray. Like, you immediately know how you feel coming out of those films, whereas with Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, you really have to sit down and think about it. And when you have all those screeners like in your pile, like when you get to Eternal Sunshine, you're probably not going to be able to have enough time to think about it, at least not in a sense where when you put it into your top 5 for Best Picture. I mean, one thing we will definitely talk about is like the 5 other films I got into Best Picture, and also the screenplay and stuff, and what we think could have been the other 5 if there were 5 nominees for Best Picture. But that's why I want to talk about Eternal Sunshine, because it is quite literally like endless layers of meaning and discovery and just things you can just glean from the script and noticing little things.
Yeah, you should also, one note I'm actually surprised that you didn't bring up, and we already had this discussion I think a while back, that this is so far the last film to win the original screenplay category that wasn't a Best Picture nominated film, which I find really interesting. It's like, okay, I guess it really, I guess Crash was just such a winner in of itself, to where it's like, oh yeah, well, like, this is now going to forever be a staple for Best Picture nominees in the original screenplay category. But regardless, I saw the film first back in Stevenson. We actually got a chance to read through the screenplay itself, because I took screenwriting classes at Stevenson University, and I got a chance right before class started to watch the movie itself, and I was like, oh wow, this is actually really original, and it's really clever, and it's a creative concept to dissect and discuss and really just bring from page to screen. Obviously this could, you could tell a story like this in a novel form if you'd like, or even as a graphic novel, but I'm really appreciative that Pierre Bismuth, who is the conceptual artist who helped out with the film, but Michel Gondry and Charlie Kaufman collaborated together and brought this original concept to life, in which just the fact that they were able to get the visuals out of this for such a tiny like a shoestring budget, practically, like it's $20 million was the budget, but it's really effective with what they use with that budget. I was just watching a behind the scenes featurette on it on the DVD release that they had, because I rented it from my local library. And what I thought was interesting was that in one of the many scenes of the film, we see it's like early on in the film. I'm not sure if you remember it, Christian, but there's a part where Jim Carrey is walking on the sidewalk by himself in the middle of the day, and there's a filter. It looks like a misty filter in the background going on. Like it's almost like he's in a cloud of mist, except for Carrey himself. And all they did was they had two grips who are, guys behind the heat grips holding this like filter right behind Jim Carrey as he's moving towards the camera. And as the camera's moving backwards, the filter guys are moving, behind Carrey. And I thought it was incredible how they did something like that. I thought was just extraordinary what they did. And and I thought overall the film itself was clever. It had a lot to talk about, even with just relationships itself, and a lot of really good performances too. Like this is one where Jim Carrey is able to showcase his acting chops in a really interesting way that we haven't seen him do like this, or at least anything this dramatic since maybe like Truman Show. And he's had his fair share of dramatic work too, not just before this, but also after this as well. And Kate Winslet, who was nominated for an Academy Award for lead actress. And then you have other actors who I forgot were in the movie, like Elijah Wood's in the film, who is playing a completely different role than the film he was in last year with the Lord of the Rings movies. Kirsten Dunst, who also had Spider-Man 2. You had an early Mark Ruffalo, which I find really interesting, that apparently this was, at the time, this and Collateral were like one of his more bigger, famous roles that he'd done. And Tom Wilkinson is in this too, who's quite good in the film. David Cross is in the film too. Yeah, so my thoughts, to sum it up pretty much, what I think of the film, pretty good, actually. It was shocking to me because I had only seen Anomalisa before this in terms of like Charlie Kaufman written screenplays. He had a hand in writing, and I remember not really being the biggest fan of Anomalisa. Like the animation work was incredible, and I thought it was an interesting concept to deliver, but I couldn't really connect to the story myself emotionally. But maybe I'll get around to watching that down the road and give it another chance. But this one here, I was completely on board with the whole story. Like, despite how weird and clever the concept was, I was engaged with the story. Even this time around, even more so, where I started picking up little details throughout the film that I was impressed by, that we'll get into a little bit in a moment. But yeah, just a great screenplay and a really solid film that I would encourage, much like adaptation, I would encourage anyone who's interested in screenwriting, or if you're even remotely curious to know how a screenplay, how a clever screenplay like this comes to life, watch this. It's really, really good. And again, just another one of many films that if you're going to be a screenwriter, I would highly recommend you check out this and adaptation. But anyways, yeah. Onto the movie itself. Were there any things in particular that you wanted to point out first? Because I got a fair amount of notes on my my phone I'll bring up, but you go first.
Yeah, I do have a few notes as well. One thing I kind of one thing that I've always kind of found weird is that Kate Winslet got nominated for Best Lead Actress for this. I mean, deservingly so. But once again, Jim Carrey just couldn't manage to get that nomination for Best Actor. It's so weird. It's like, this is like easily like his most naturalistic performance. And once again, he just kind of got shafted by the Oscars. He got in at the Golden Globes, and even BAFTA nominated him, which was pretty amazing. Oh, wow. But yeah, BAFTA got it. Hell, the BAFTAs fucking loved Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. They went in, and I definitely want to talk about some of those awards later on.
Yeah, we will. Later on in the episode, trust me. Yeah.
Yeah, but Jim Carrey not getting in, it's like I really do kind of feel like the Academy just can't really see him as anything other than just the comedian. He's the silly goofball who does comedies, and it's like, I thought he was totally deserving of a nomination for this. I mean, granted, you had some good competition as well. You had Jamie Foxx, Leo DiCaprio, Johnny Depp, Don Cheadle, and Clint Eastwood, but I don't know. I still would feel like I'd put Jim Carrey pretty high up there. I mean, maybe above. I'd probably maybe swap him out with Johnny Depp. I mean, not that Johnny Depp was bad in Finding Neverland at all. Like, absolutely not. But it's like, I feel like Johnny Depp didn't really do as much with the performance as some of his other performances, like in Pirates of the Caribbean or Sweeney Todd. So that's probably why I'd swap him out with Jim Carrey. Although again, it was a very tough year. It was a very strong year for lead actors, but yeah, Jim Carrey just couldn't get in, like, and he still hasn't gotten in over all these years. I mean, I hope he finds something. I hope one of these days he can, get that nomination and find the right film, but I don't know when that time is going to come,
Yeah, I don't know. It's his chances are kind of dwindling as they speak, but I will get to lead actor when we get to the awards thing because I have a hot take that I'll get into.
Oh no, you hate Jim Carrey. You hate him in this
No,
movie.
no. I actually think Jim Carrey is quite good in this. Like his performance is quite good for what he's delivering, and I haven't seen Truman Show in the longest time, and I remember it being like I respected it, but I have very weird feelings on it. But I'll get around to that down the road. But Jim Carrey, it's fascinating to see him go from Dumb and Dumber, The Mask, and even one of your all-time favorite films, The Grinch.
It's not my top 10. It's not my top 10.
Yeah, okay.
But it might be my favorite rotten film on Rotten Tomatoes.
But regardless, though, to see him go from those kind of comedic performances and then do something dramatic where, Truman Show, he is playing essentially a version of his other films. Like, if you were to take Liar Liar out, like just take the dramatic moments of Liar Liar, and then you end up bringing him into something like this, which is really showcasing somewhat of a new side of him that we haven't seen in such a great way. And again, he's given a good enough director which is Michel Gondry, and then a good enough screenplay by Charlie Kaufman. And he's able to deliver a really surprisingly good performance in the film, and he really does stand toe to toe, I should say, with Kate Winslet, who is really good in the film. And one thing I also have to credit, just like the other actors of the film, I have to credit Jim Carrey on, much like the other crew as well. Well, I should say, collectively as a whole, I want to credit the film for delivering on the dream sequences themselves, not just how creatively weird and bizarre it gets. Because when we dream, Inception kind of dealt with this a little bit where it's not based on logic, it's more based on emotion. And it doesn't really make sense in terms of how, why is it we have the winding staircase go multiple times around? Why is it that we can't see why can't we just look at that person's face when we're trying to grab a hold of them and then, they can't turn around or whatever the case may be. And it works because of the emotions going on within your brain rather than the logic of how we deal with reality in of itself. And what I liked about it was how they were able to deliver that concept on the big screen, but also have Jim Carrey, like when he's going into some of his memories and you see him in this, like almost in the same, take, him in one outfit with him in his winter outfit with his coat and then his little beanie hat on. And then as the camera's moving around, it showcases to him in like his, earlier self with, his attire and such. And he's got his hair all rumpled up on the chair doing like a whole one-on-one diagnosis with the doctor played by Tom Wilkinson. And then to do it all, do it back again. It's really incredible how they're able to accomplish this in such a clever way, all done mostly in camera special effects work. And even, body doubles that you use as well. Like when there's another argument in the film going on with Kate Winslet and Jim Carrey, and Kate Winslet goes into the bathroom, and then as Jim Carrey opens up, Kate Winslet's gone, but then she's all of a sudden showing up in the kitchen, and then there's there's like a body double of her leaving the house, which I thought with the wig on for Clementine, I thought was incredible. Like really, really good work overall. And there's also visual effects behind the scenes work. I didn't get a chance to watch it right before this episode, but Corridor Crew covered the visual effects work for Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind with him on the, it was like infinite sidewalk they had with like the mirrored reflection of the car being broken down and then you know, you have all these shops and such, and I thought it was incredible. Like I still can't believe they accomplished so much of the effects work on such a low budget. And yeah, just like it's just one of the many things that I really appreciate about this film, especially watching it again and actually, you know, not just being like, oh, I'm watching a movie, you know, I got 2 hours to kill, you know, let's watch it, but like actually studying and taking notes from the film. I was like, really appreciate some of the ways that they did some of this stuff, because this is not something that, well, one, I don't think it would be greenlit and taken off the ground to begin with to be made into a theatrical movie. But two, I also just don't think a movie like this would have this many in-person special effects. They would probably just rely on a lot of CG work, which, like, it just wouldn't have shown the effort put into it. And obviously they had to use green screen and CG work for some of the effects in the film. But I don't know. It would just, if this were made nowadays, I don't think the visual effects work would have been as great or as impressive as it was back then, so to speak, you know, with like the limitations they have, you know what I mean?
I don't know, because I feel like really, like, I think even if it did come out today, it's like a lot of those principles that they had, it's like they probably still would have used those, because that was what worked for the film. It's like,
Yeah.
you know, I don't think that it would have been like total CG land, because it's like, at least, you know, because I am a little bit knowledgeable when it comes to like visual effects stuff, especially because, you know, when I do a lot of or at least, you know, I follow a lot of like the visual effects races and stuff.
What?
And
You're a visual effects supervisor, but like
enthusiast, I
expert
guess.
enthusiast of awards. I
Maybe
didn't know
not,
that.
I wouldn't say expert. I would probably say enthusiast, because
Yeah.
I don't claim to be visual effects. Like, I couldn't do visual effects if I tried. But it's like,
I know, I gotcha.
but I think with Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, it's like a lot of it was like kind of simple, rudimentary stuff anyway. Where it's like they like really like, I think what it came down to is more like really clever like storyboarding and planning.
Yeah.
Like when it came to planning out how everything kind of worked out. And yeah, there were some visual effects used. And in fact, the movie was actually nominated for a supporting visual effects nomination at the Visual Effects Society Awards.
Oh.
Although I think it lost to, I think it was Kingdom of Heaven, because like I think it lost to Kingdom of Heaven, which had a lot more like of the backgrounds and stuff. So, which, hey, fair enough. I can't really complain about that. But you know, I think a lot of it, what it came down to is like, even if it did come out today, I don't think it would be much different than how they did it back then. I think maybe a lot of it could have been done faster.
Yeah.
But overall, it's like, I don't like really. Yeah, it probably would have been the visual effects wise. I think it'd mostly be the same as it is now, honestly.
Well, what I mean by like nowadays, I'm saying in lesser hands, they probably would have used a lot more visual effects work. They probably wouldn't have had as much planning going on within the storyboards and relied more on practical effects. But also it helped too that Michel Gondry is known, even his music videos, to create in-person effects work for his stuff. So, you know, if you had like, I don't know, some autopilot schmuck or whatever, to be like, whatever, you know, we'll fix it in post or whatever, what some of the more bigger blockbusters are doing nowadays. And I'm looking right now. So Kingdom of Heaven did win visual effects supporting, but it was for the next year.
Oh, I forgot it was the Aviator. The Aviator.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's fair enough. Fair enough for the Aviator's part, because like I don't think I would nominate that for like the visual effects Oscar Aviator. Yeah. But if we're talking about supporting visual effects, like, all right, that's fine. Yeah, I get that. There's some pretty impressive sequences, especially the plane crashing into all of those, you know, miniatures. Like, that was pretty sweet. So but like I said, even if we were like I said, yeah, I don't think it like. I just don't think they would have. I don't think even if it were made today, like depending on who you made it, it's like I genuinely don't think Eternal Sunshine would have been made very much all that differently in terms of its effects. Like, it probably would have, like, because it's not the kind of story that would require that much going on. You know, like, you know what I mean.
I do. I guess. Because also the other thing that the other, at least for me, something I'm noticing a lot more is, even though there's a lot of well, yeah, I guess, yeah. Other films, well, other aspects of the film that I want to bring up as I'm pulling out my
Oh,
notes. Go ahead.
I know. I definitely want to bring up, even though it kind of also ties back to the awards, but it's just like one technical element. I'm just like, how did that not get nominated? And you know what it was? Editing. How did it? Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind did not get nominated for editing, and yet it won the BAFTA. Like what?
Yeah, we'll definitely unravel that, tangle web, so to speak. I'm looking through. So one of the things that I liked about the movie, well, I actually, yeah, just to list off like one of many things I love. I love how the film starts off with Joel waking up from what's essentially his night of memory wipe, especially when his car gets damaged, to him realizing the first time it's been 2 years since he's written in his little journal, when in reality, those 2 years were the times of Joel in a relationship with Clementine. Like really, really great detail, and I didn't even notice on my first watch because when you watch it on your first time, you're like, oh, okay, it's just him waking up to like a normal day, like, oh, there's someone outside, leaving for work in a hurry, whatever. And the other aspect of the film that I like about the opening is during the opening credits. I'm not sure if you noticed this on this watch. Each time they show the credits, so like directed by, written by, produced by,
It disintegrates when they fade out,
and
like a memory.
not only that, but it fades away backwards. So it's from the last letter backwards to the first letter, and I thought was great. And it was like,
Yeah.
just like the movie, it's like it's working its way backwards to where we get to Joel's final memory, or at least his early memories as a child. And I thought that was terrific. And even going back into the dream sequence themselves, really good and creative production design with what they have, with having not only some of the miniatures, but even having the bigger table for, creating like a bigger table for Joel when he's a little child, and having the big refrigerator, I thought was great. Like really, really creative for what they did.
Oh, and speaking of the production design, one thing I also kind of noticed was like when the scene where it starts raining and Joel goes under the table's texture is that of like the awning that they're standing over later on.
Oh yeah, that's right. Okay. Huh.
Yeah.
I didn't even notice that. Oh.
Yeah, it's like it's little details like that you don't really notice at first.
Yeah, and the other, like, there's other terrific performances in here that we could talk about. We've already mentioned Jim Carrey, and Kate Winslet's really, really good in this film. Might be some of her best, or at least some of her best work she's done, not just in terms of her Oscar nominations, but maybe of her films that I've seen so far. But the other actor I want to bring up, which I already brought up before, Elijah Wood. I really, really like Elijah Wood's performance in the film, because especially with how his behavior towards Joel makes sense once you realize the opening takes place after the procedure, and that Joel is the one that pretty much screwed over Elijah Wood's character's chances at trying to get in bed with Clementine. And what I liked about it, I won't name names on here, but there are some people that I've come across in my life, not just in terms of stories, but even in person, that really showcases how manipulative a son of a bitch like Elijah Wood can be.
Ugh.
And it's one of the many aspects I like about the film, not just of how good he is in that performance, which really does show his range as an actor, but also the fact that it's not just a typical stereotypical bad guy we have in a screenplay. It ties into the story in that it's showcasing all these different relationships going on in the movie. You have the David Cross role, who is like a very typical relationship. Like they get into a bit of bickering here and there, but it's expected for that kind of relationship. You have a boring relationship. You have a very socially awkward relationship with Joel and Clementine. And then you have what's revealed to be later on in the film with Tom Wilkinson, who had an affair with Kirsten Dunst, and they had to get the memory wiped out because that relationship was not going to be healthy for either of them, especially when Tom Wilkinson already has a family of his own. And I liked how it wasn't just, oh, let's just dabble some of these relationships here and there and not really bring it up as like a main point for this, like how relationships overall can be weird and awkward. But at the end of the day, if you have someone that you who's a really solid companion, and you're willing to take risks and willing to see where the relationship will go, then you may end up being okay. And it ties into the themes of the movie itself, even with the fact that Joel realizing over the course of the memory erasure, he doesn't want to lose Clementine. He wants to keep her, even just that one bit of memory of them together under the blankets. He wants to keep this relationship as it is, and he wants to take everything back. But he can't, this isn't like a Christmas Carol story where it's like, oh, let's, and they could have easily done it like that, which is ironic because Jim Carrey was in a Christmas Carol version of it, back, what was it, like 2009, 2010?
Yeah, 2009.
And this story could have easily been told that way and be like, okay, Bob's your uncle, that's it. But they didn't. They actually added a bit more complexity and really just a lot of layers to the screenplay that I was really impressed with. And even with Elijah Wood's character showcasing how manipulative this guy is, he not only takes Joel's stuff in the movie, but uses all of these memories as a way of getting into Clementine's mind, like even reciting lines spoken to her at certain locations, and even in a weird way unlocking Clementine's memory. Like, this is really odd. I don't know what it is, but this is really odd. And it's something I also really appreciated. I'm not sure if you saw this other film, Groundhog Day, which did kind of tackle a little bit of that, where Bill Murray is on like a time loop and he ends up trying to get Annie McDowell, I think it was in the film, or I can't remember her name on the top of my head, but he ends up trying to have a date with her, and the way that each time he tries to recreate the scenario over and over again, it comes off there comes a point in the story where it's like the girl's like, wait, this is really weird and it's just too quick. Like, what's going on with you, man? Like, what's going on with this relationship that we're trying to establish? And yeah, I just thought that was a really, again, I like that how the film showcased both the good and the bad of relationships in general, and that was something that I just thought was like really clever, all within this really creative and wonderful screenplay overall.
Yeah, like rewatching this film again, I was just like, when I came across Elijah Wood's character, he really gave me the ick. Like, yeah. I was like, oh god, this is like in manipulation. It's like, eh. But one thing I kind of realize, like, I think when it comes to like the theme of the film and erasing memories, I think it's not really just about relationships and how complex they are, but I think in general memories, why memories are so important, not just in the context of relationships. There's one scene that really kind of broke my heart when I rewatched it last year. And it's like you see this one, when Joel's like waiting in the waiting room, you see this one woman come in with like a bone and a picture of her dog. And I was like,
oh yeah.
And it's like, you realize, oh wait, her dog died and she wants to, get rid of the pain and forget about him. And, my cat, had recently died, up to that point last year. And I was like, God, I kind of like broke down, and I was just like, shit, like, because I could never think of doing something like that. Like, yeah, the pain of losing, someone or something like a pet, hurts. But I don't like. It's like even though it kind of hurts sometimes to think about that, but it's essential for the human experience. It's really essential to be like, because you need to learn that everything is temporary, and nothing is nothing's going to be around forever. I mean, who knows when if the universe is going to be ongoing, or implodes in on itself or explodes on itself. I mean, I don't know, but it's like it's kind of like that. It's like, I just would never want to forget something like that, even someone or something, no matter how much it hurts. And it's not even just about that as well, because I think one thing that the movie also really, something that this is kind of a new thing that I realized when I just rewatched the film. It's that the movie kind of hints at the idea that, because they're trying to get back to, because by the end it looks like they're trying to get back together.
Yes.
Because like, And that one scene around literally the end of the movie, like the very end of the movie, where you kind of see them running along the beach and it just keeps looping and looping. Granted, it looks like, but then again, I mean, granted, we never really see the business shut down, so maybe it's still ongoing. But Kirsten Dunst is just telling people, "Hey, this is what it is." But
Yeah.
the ending, I feel like, kind of hints at, because I do feel like Joel and Clem are not a good couple. I think really almost everyone in this movie is an asshole to some extent. I mean, granted, some are worse. I mean, I think maybe the worst one is Elijah Wood, but
Yeah.
everyone just has like some really bad toxic traits, and it kind of shows how no one in this movie is really right for each other. And when you see that one looping bit in the end, where it starts looping and looping, and it just gets more wider, and it's like it kind of hints that they're not going to learn their lesson. Because they keep erasing their memories, they're just going to keep making the same mistakes over and over again in perpetuity, and they're just because they keep erasing their memories. It's just like the cycle never ends in a way, if that makes sense.
It does, and I weirdly enough, I'm actually okay with the film ending that way. I like that the film doesn't hold your hand, and it really does end on this ambiguous note. Although, yeah, like one could clue in the fact that like maybe this relationship isn't all that perfect, and maybe they're not really meant to be together, but it's because of their situations that they're in. That's why they, it's like she's the only person that, as much as I have issues with her as a romantic partner, she's the only person that really understands who I am and is willing to put up with some of my bullshit. Maybe not all of it, but still, it's enough of it. The other aspect of the film that I really want to bring up about it is as they're reliving their memories of meeting for the first time, the music being played backwards for Clementine and Joel, I thought was really clever and creative. And even at the beginning of the film, I didn't even realize this until, because I noticed I was like, something's off. Like, what is it? Because I watched on a DVD screener, and I watched on my TV you see behind me, but I had the volume down pretty low when I started off, and I realized, oh crap, I better, increase the volume a bit. As Joel is visiting the house early on in the film, the beach house, you hear this like faint echo in the background of Clementine telling him to visit in the location he ends up going to, which is it's like the last thing that she says to him once he wakes, like right before he wakes up. And I thought that was like really, really clever. And again, just something you would not notice on a first watch. Like if you picked up any and all of the references that it ties itself back into, that you would notice on a rewatch, I don't know how you would be able to do it, but congratulations.
Honestly, I never even picked up on that. I didn't know in the beginning you heard "Meet Me in Montauk."
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and even the music going backwards, which I thought was like a really clever and creative choice to do. I thought that was great. And even I'm looking through to see other notes that I have. Looking through. We already mentioned the visual effects work already extensively. The sound work is pretty good too for what it's going for. Like it's nothing. It's nothing outstanding or anything that's like, oh my god, brilliant sound mixing or sound editing work, but it's still pretty good work. Yeah, it works for what it's going for. And I'm not sure about you, but I did sticker a little bit when Jim Carrey, we see him as a kid, and we see him in his child attire, like with the pajamas, and then he's got the Superman-like red cape. As a child, that I thought that was pretty funny. And then we see Kate Winslet dressed up as like a cowgirl, but like an infant-sized one. I thought that was pretty funny.
I'm not gonna lie, like that scene actually felt very emotional to me rather than funny. Like I don't know why, like that. I don't know if it's the music, or that paired with what he's doing as a kid with the bird and the hammer. It's like I don't know why I got really sad during that scene. I usually get sad during that scene.
Well, at first I kind of snickered a bit. I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot Jim Carrey and Kate Winslet are in like children's attires. But yeah, no, it is very intentionally trying to be a serious and emotional scene in the film, especially with him going back to his childhood to where, you see him where he's like, oh yeah, look at, Joel, where it's like he's pretty much been an introvert through most of his life. And yeah, I thought that was still a pretty good scene overall, though. I'm looking through to see if there's anything else. Yeah, I just yeah, just overall though, I was really impressed with the film. Uh, yeah, just really really solid work from everyone involved, from the entire cast, which are incredible with their performances. With the production design, the visual effects work that is involved, even the just the fact that you're able to do most of these sequences in the film in camera. Again, the body doubles, Jim Carrey switching in and out of costume, other characters switching in and out of costume as well. And it was just something that I was like, I really appreciate what Michel Gondry and Charlie Kaufman were able to bring for this film. And it's a little bit disappointing because I didn't get a chance. The only thing that's disappointing in that I didn't get a chance before we watched it for the episode. I need to get a chance to show this to my brother because I think he would have probably liked this a lot more than I did, and maybe there are some things that he probably could have picked up on that I didn't. But yeah, no, but yeah, down the road I will probably show him this film. It's hopefully soon, but yeah, just really really good movie overall, and I'm really happy it got the awards recognition and it got the. It made a fair amount of money, and people are still talking about it now, even to this day, which is great.
I will say there are a couple of other bullet points I had when it came to this film in terms of notes I realized. That one scene where like that truck almost hitting Joel, that was kind of insane considering because like I'm sure that I think that actually was Jim Carrey, but like the fact that the truck was seemingly going as fast as it was, how big it was, and it just like stopped that quickly, mere inches from hitting Jim Carrey. It's like that stunt was kind of insane when you kind of think about it.
Yeah. There's no way that was CG. There's no way. That must have been an actual truck. Like, come on.
No, like it's just insane. Like I don't even think it was a situation where like they put Jim Carrey and like where they were like two different takes put together. Like it's like no, like I think they just almost hit Jim Carrey with a truck. And it's like no, which is kind of crazy because like back then he was like one of the biggest stars on the planet. And also one thing I kind of realized is that, and it's like. Is it just me or what? Because I noticed this in the beginning. Did Joel erase the memory of Huckleberry Hound because of Clementine, or did he? Or do you think he actually did kind of forget about Huckleberry Hound or never? Because he says he never heard of Huckleberry Hound, and granted, I'm Gen Z, so like I should not know about Huckleberry Hound, but I do, and so back then when Jim Carrey was a kid. He must have known what Huckleberry Hound was. So it's like when he says he'd never even heard of Huckleberry Hound, and yet Clementine says, like, "What? You never heard of it?" Because of "Oh my darling, Clementine." It's like, do you think that was actually an intentional choice that they made, where it's like he actually did have Huckleberry Hound erased from his memory?
I mean, it could be one of those things where, as a kid, when you're growing up, especially when if you have any traumatized moments as your childhood life, you tend to sort of bring barriers down and be like, okay, I do not remember, like just purposely do not remember some of these moments, even if they're tied into some of the more beautiful moments that happen in your life. Because I remember that happened with me, where I was at a rally event for, this was like years ago, and there was a kid from elementary school who walked up to me and he's like, "Hey Matt, remember me?" I'm like, I actually don't remember you. Like, have we met before? And he goes, yeah, no, we went to elementary school. I'm like, okay, yeah, I do not remember at all. And a lot of it was because I blocked out some of the things from my childhood. But yeah, maybe that might be it. I don't know, actually.
I mean, like, yeah, I mean, I get that a lot too. Like people, I've seen people like say, "Hey, Christian, I recognize you from high school." Even if it's high school, I'll be like, "I'm sorry, I've completely forgotten who you are." But it's like, something like Huckleberry Hound, I don't know. It just seems a little bit too much of a coincidence that he doesn't remember this popular, cartoon character from probably who was popular around when Jim Carrey's character was a kid, because Jim Carrey's kind of old. So it's like, I don't know. It makes me wonder if he actually did have Huckleberry Hound erased from his memory entirely, because
Maybe.
he wasn't really all that relevant in 2004. The character.
I mean, the other thing too about the film is that, and this is something that I do like about the procedure itself, is that they don't really over-explain what goes on in the procedure itself. It's very much, here's a roadmap from one point to another, and the people pretty much come into your house during the middle of the night after you take essentially what is like heavy drinking is what it is, and it's just going to give you like minor brain damage, like a hangover, and that's it. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty interesting. Yeah, but I thought that was clever enough. But yeah, no, maybe he could have deleted it during the memory thing. Maybe. So
Yeah, yeah. I'm trying to think. Yeah, that's actually something I did that you did kind of mention. I'm like, oh yeah, it's like it's for a concept that's like so complex and difficult to really explain. They explain it in a way that's very simple, in a very, very simple way.
it's simple enough because if you over explain the procedure itself, then you can't really get sucked into the characters, and then you have a lot of logic gaps of like, wait, what's going on? Why are we doing this? Why can't he just get out of the mode? Or do things like this? Whatever the case may be.
Yeah, by not explaining it too much, kind of protect themselves in this bubble where it's like, hey, things can be more consistent if it's made simple.
Yeah, exactly. And it really did seem like Charlie Kaufman and Pierre Bismuth and Michel Gondry, when they came up with the story and the structure, they were like, okay, let's make sure we overthought, it did seem like a very detailed screenplay that they overthought about, and they realized, okay, here's what we're going to do with this, but let's try not to throw too much. Like, here's the simple gist of it, and then take it from there. And honestly, like a really good script, you focus on the characters. At least something like this, you should focus on the characters rather than the idea and the concept, because if you get really good characters along the way as well as getting great performances, then the rest of the movie will speak for itself pretty much. But yeah, Any other final thoughts that you have on the film? Because I pretty much said most of my notes I said already as is.
Yeah, in terms of the film itself, before we get into like the awards aspect of it all, it's like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind really does, I feel like, hold up. Even like 21 years later. God, this movie's 21 years old.
Yeah, I know.
And it's like, the movie, I feel like, it's still one of my favorite films of all time. Like, again, I was a teenager when I saw this, and, I didn't quite, it was one of those films where it's like, it meant something to me different back then, and then when I watched it again, it meant something different, and every time I rewatch it, I discover something new about it that I can take even more meaning from. And so I think that's kind of like why Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, when you look at what, at least when you ask people today what some of their favorite films of 2004 will be, more than really any of the Best Picture nominees, they're mostly going to say, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, because it's that film that really has endured after all these years, even more than any of the Best Picture nominated films. Like, for as much as everyone loves, Sideways, and how some people think that deserved Best Picture over $1 Million Baby, and again, we'll discuss that a little bit later, but it's like, most people, I think, would say Eternal Sunshine is better than Sideways or The Aviator or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, I keep forgetting, like, even over the course of the years, I'm like, when I finally got around to watch this, I'm like, oh yeah, there is like a cult following for Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, which I find really interesting. And then, yeah, when I finally saw it, I'm like, okay, yeah, no, this is justified. Like, there's a reason why people keep coming back to this movie and talk about it so much. But yeah, so yeah, as far as the film itself, well, awards prospects go, let's just jump right into it. So,
All right.
Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind was released on March 19th, 2004, with glowing reviews, and became a worldwide box office hit, making over $72 million on a budget of $20 million. Yes, I understand domestically and even internationally in of itself, it made like 37, 32 million on each side, but if you combine it together, it's a mild box office hit of sorts. And the film was nominated for several awards from various awards groups, such as the BAFTAs, which we already mentioned got an insane amount of BAFTA nominations there. Got a few golden. Sorry, go ahead.
I was about to say, like, we'll definitely discuss those here in a bit because I want to talk about all of this.
Oh yeah, definitely. Golden Globe nominations it got, Critics' Choice nominations, and then as we mentioned before, Academy Award nominations, where it got a lead actress nomination for Kate Winslet, as I mentioned before, as well as a deserved original screenplay Oscar. And it also made it on the Writers Guild of America's 101 Greatest Screenplays of 21st Century so far. And as of right now, as we're recording, it is number 2 on the list.
Oh, wait, let me guess what number 1 is. Is it Get Out?
Yes.
I figured. Like, Get Out's also another film that is just so brilliantly well written.
Yeah. I won't say who yet, but I have someone coming on the podcast for that later on this year. Our goal is to try to get it out by around October for the spooky Halloween season. Ooh. But that'll be in a few months. You guys have plenty. Yeah, but enough about that. So Christian, we have so many questions to ask and answer. Why do you think this managed to win the Oscar over films like The Aviator, Hotel Rwanda, The Incredibles, and Vera Drake? And I should also point out to our audience, you have just seen Vera Drake and Hotel Rwanda. Am I correct in saying that?
Yes.
Okay. So why was it, now that you've seen, I assume, the whole lineup, why is it that we got Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind as our winner, besides the obvious?
Like, it's very strange because, like, yeah, it beat out. Let me look at this because I actually have the awards thing right here. Yeah, it beat out really like The Aviator. Like, I think its biggest competition was probably The Aviator because that was in Best Picture.
Yeah.
But it's like, I think ultimately with the Eternal Sunshine, it's like, I'm starting to wonder because it didn't win the Critics' Choice Award. It didn't win the Golden Globe. Although to be fair, it lost to Sideways it lost to Sideways in those awards because Critics' Choice Awards only had a single screenplay category.
Yep.
But I think with Eternal Sunshine, maybe part of it had to do with, like, especially by the time when you got to the Oscars, when people finally caught up to it, it's like, oh wait, this movie is actually really brilliant, or like when they really thought about it and sat with it. Because The Aviator, you could probably argue, is more of a big directing achievement. I mean, good God, it is large in scope, and
oh yeah.
Whereas, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, and plus, Eternal Sunshine was the only other film, other than The Aviator and original screenplay, that got nominated everywhere. Critics' Choice, Golden Globe, BAFTA, Writers Guild. So, like, it was kind of just that huge of at least, like, when you take out Sideways and people really have to sit with Eternal Sunshine, maybe that one. But again, it is kind of weird that it wasn't nominated for Best Picture and yet it won Screenplay. Obviously, if there were 10 nominees, it would have been nominated for Best Picture. Absolutely, yes. It would not even a question.
So let's start answering this question first of, like, what the 10 nominated films were. So we agree Eternal Sunshine would have been number 6.
Oh, actually, I don't think it was number 6.
Oh, okay.
I think number 6, especially when rewatching it, I think when rewatching this film, I think it was maybe Hotel Rwanda. Because Hotel Rwanda, because hear me out, it got Critics' Choice and Golden Globe like Eternal Sunshine. Now, Eternal Sunshine did very well at the BAFTAs, but Hotel Rwanda also got SAG love.
Yep.
It got SAG nominations for, Don Cheadle.
Got the ensemble nomination.
Sophie Okonedo, who only had SAG. Like, I think when it came to... Yeah, like, she only got SAG and then got the Oscar nomination. I think that really showed this film was like... What, especially, when watching it. I don't know what your thoughts on Hotel Rwanda are. I want to hear yours, but I really loved Hotel Rwanda. Like, it is it is, like, heart-pounding and also very, very emotional. I'm just like, God damn. And plus it's, tackling, a subject matter with the Rwandan genocide. And it's like, God damn, man. It is, like, I'm not gonna lie, it very much reflects a lot of what's going on today in the Middle East. And it's like,
Yeah.
shit, man. And it's like, especially this one line where someone says, people aren't going to do anything. They're not going to, they're just going to see what's happening on the news and go, oh, that sucks. And then go back to eating their breakfast. And it's like, and I think because of how, especially that kind of emotional hook that it has, Hotel Rwanda is a little bit more instantly palatable than something like Eternal Sunshine, where you really have to think on that film. So I do think Eternal Sunshine would have gotten in, but I actually think it was probably number 7 after Hotel Rwanda because of how strong Hotel Rwanda was at SAG. And keep in mind, most of the people in the Academy are actors.
Yes.
I think that's probably what would have propelled Hotel Rwanda to number 6.
Okay, so then, number 6 would have been Hotel Rwanda, 7, Eternal Sunshine. Do you think Vera Drake was number 8?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, good God. It got lead actress, original screenplay, director. I mean, good God. How would it not have been in Best Picture at that point? Especially with how well it did at BAFTA. And not just how well it did at BAFTA, but again, when you look at the nominations it got, it's like, well, especially nowadays, it's kind of shown when you lock it down to 10 nominees, if you're nominated for director, you will get nominated in picture.
Yep.
I know some people try to disagree with me when they say, well, what about Cold War or Foxcatcher? It's like, I still think even Cold War or even Another Round would have been in Best Picture. Probably squeaked into Best Picture, obviously, but I think they would have been in Best Picture if there were 10 nominees. It's like, it's just not, because even when people tried to convince me, I remember back when the Zone of Interest, when people were trying to predict, that year for the Oscars, people kept trying to tell me, why do you have the Zone of Interest in Best Picture? I mean, sure, he might get director, but the movie might be too isolating for Best Picture. It's like, again, 10 nominees. You lock it down, you force it down to 10. Like, you're not going to get nominated for director if you don't also get, if you're not also going to get a Best Picture nomination.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because even Josh Parham said that too, and that's why I always stuck with Zone of Interest getting into picture, because I'm like, if he believes this is in for director and it's in for picture, then I'm sticking with by that too. And I agree though. Yeah, even in the field of 10, and even with the subject matter involved, Mike Leigh is also a known director, and it's and this is also the first Mike Leigh film you had seen from him. Am I correct in saying that?
No, I also saw Hard Truths.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, of course, everyone forgets about that because Hard Truths was not that good.
Yeah, I didn't see it yet. But I have seen other Mike Leigh films in the past, and I would say of the stuff, which is only 3 so far, so it's like Another Year, Happy Go Lucky, which I already covered on the Lone Screenplay Nominee podcast, so go check it out after the episode, everyone. And then Vera Drake, which is the third one. And I just find it funny. It's like, here I am. I'm watching watching Mike Leigh films for my podcast. It's like, okay, I guess this will be the only time when I see Mike Leigh films. But as far as what I've seen so far of his films, I think I was really surprised how mature this was in terms of the subject matter, and he is mostly known for doing quirky comedies. Nothing that's like Martin McDonagh-like qualities, but they're very much like, they're very simple and they're very, elegant, and they're nice little films, like the 2 I mentioned, Another Year and then Happy Go Lucky. But this one, it took on a more respected, more mature approach to the subject matter of abortion, which I thought was really interesting. And even Imelda Staunton, who I am shocked that she went from this to the Harry Potter films.
Yeah, going from someone who's like so very sympathetic as a character, to being one of the most unlikable bastards I've ever seen in my life. Oh my fucking God.
Yeah.
Like, when everyone told me how awful her character was, I mean, not like badly written, but how evil her character was
in the Harry Potter films.
Yeah, in the most real, like how realistically evil her character is in Harry Potter. I was like, really? How is that so? And then I watched it. I was like, oh, I hate this person. I absolutely hate this person. Because at least with Voldemort, he's like so like super villain evil. It's like, all right, he's fun. He's a lot of, but I've met people like Imelda Staunton's character in Harry Potter. Like, she's so evil in a realistic way. I hate her in that film, but I do agree with Vera Drake. It's like, I don't know how controversial abortion was back then. I mean, it's obviously like a very hot button topic now, and I guess, granted, I think maybe it was a little bit more accepted back then because, things really weren't as completely like divisive as they are today.
Yeah.
But Vera Drake really did handle, the topic of abortion with a lot of nuance, and it wasn't just a completely, black and white thing. Like, you could, this goes into a little bit of details with the film itself, but one could make the argument, what she's doing is, like, in principle, is kind of just, because how really access to abortion, or even being able to get abortions and all that, is really only reserved for, like, if you're like super rich and whatnot, and she's just kind of providing help for those who can't really get it. But at the same time, she's not as she's not as careful, or maybe, or no, she is careful, but it's also like, because of the hoops she has to go through, it's like
she doesn't have the special tools and experience, like, veteran experience required to do this kind of stuff for free. Like, she's very much in the more like amateur type of abortionist clinic personnel, so to speak.
Yeah, and it's like, when you restrict abortion access, or when people don't have access to abortions, it's like people have to resort to something, even if it's not as safe. And it's a very, very nuanced take on that. And I'm like, granted, again, I don't really know, like, again, it was probably not as hot topic back in, a hot button topic as it was in 2004. But man, like, I don't know if a movie like Vera Drake could be made today, if I'm going to be honest, much less embraced by the Academy.
The thing about the Vera Drake in of itself is that I remembered New Line Cinema, or at least a division of New Line Cinema, came in and distributed the film itself. And back then, at the time, it was still a hot button topic, because I remembered it like that topic. And I think even Imelda Staunton has gone on record before of that. The fact that her film missed picture, as well as having this hot button issue, is what sank her chances at winning lead actress for the Academy Awards. Like, Hilary Swank was going to win for $1 Million Baby, because of the fact that it was like a Best Picture. It was a Best Picture contender that a lot of people were getting caught up on, much like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. But it was also a movie that really stuck with Academy voters on an emotional level of the Best Picture nominees. And I'd assumed the decision the Academy had as a whole was, do we go with the spoilers? Mercy killing or abortion? Mercy killing or abortion? And they went with the mercy killing. So that's what they went with $1 Million Baby for lead actress. But yeah, no, I'm really glad I saw Vera Drake, and I look forward to seeing Mike Leigh's other films. Although I would not be surprised at this point if the only way I watch them is because of this podcast or other people's podcasts. We'll see, because it's like 3 for 3 for my podcast. And then, The Incredibles, great movie, an incredible movie. So as of this recording, we'll see how the new Fantastic Four movie is, because it's coming out in July. We'll see how that turns out. But so far, The Incredibles is still the best Fantastic Four movie we've gotten. So I just want to
there's no speedster in the Fantastic Four.
Yeah, whatever. Whatever.
Also, it's technically 5. It's Fantastic 5. Thank you very much.
All right, whatever.
But yeah, The Incredibles, that's like just classic, I know it's weird saying classic, but again, 2004, but that's just a classic animated film. Like, my God, it is so much fun. I love The Incredibles. Like, every kid our age probably grew up watching Pixar and The Incredibles and stuff like that. The Incredibles got nominated for the Golden Globe for a comedy musical picture, which is pretty big. Yeah. And it also got, it also overperformed in Oscar nominations, because it got, it got original screenplay where it didn't get it anywhere else. That must have been a huge shock. Yeah. But like, it also won Best Sound Editing. The only animated film, to my knowledge, that has ever won a sound Oscar.
I think so, yeah.
And yeah, and obviously it won Best Animated Feature, which I think must have been kind of funny because, like, imagine at the beginning of 2004, everyone must have been thinking, "Oh yeah, Shrek 2's gonna win Best Animated Feature easily" because of how much of a sensation the first one was. And even though many people would argue Shrek 2 is better than Shrek 1, I mean, the fact that The Incredibles just kind of came in and even overshadowed the first Shrek in terms of quality. I mean, granted, I don't like the first Shrek, but that's another topic for another day. But, you know, I think most people would agree The Incredibles is better than even the first Shrek. So it's like, you know, it just kind of came in, dominated. And also, you know, not to mention that, but I think the thing that settled it for me when it came to predicting the, like if there were 10 nominees for Best Picture, what made me settle on The Incredibles being number 9 was PGA nomination.
That's right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
It got nominated for PGA. Like, if this were like PGA 10, all right, that's one thing. PGA 5 is completely different. Like, that makes things like whoa. So you pair that PGA nomination up with the over nominations that The Incredibles got. I feel like it may have been lower down on the list, but I think it would have been number 9 for Best Picture.
Definitely. And speaking of which, before we get to our last film in the line of the original screenplay lineup, what would have been number 10 then for a picture?
The Motorcycle Diaries, I think.
Okay. Yeah. I would say so. Yeah, I got the screenplay nomination. Did well at the BAFTAs.
Well, for one, it got when it came to a Best Adapted Screenplay, it got obviously it got the BAFTA nomination, but also Writers Guild. Like, which for an international film. For an international film, which granted, it's usually because they're not part, they're in another country, so they're not going to be in the Writers Guild of America. But the fact that it did get Writers Guild showed that it was somewhat popular in the U.S. as well. And you look at some of the other nominations it got, you know, trying to think of what else. Actually, I just realized it didn't really get a whole lot of other nominations. But it did win Best Original Song, all right. But again, the fact that it got nominated for as many BAFTAs as it did, and, I mean, good God, even BAFTA Best Film. Like, BAFTA Best Film is, like, and again, you look at Adapted Screenplay, it's like, I think it does kind of make sense that the Motorcycle Diaries would get nominated for Best Picture if there were 10 nominees. Especially when you look at some of the other films, none of them don't really make a lot of sense as well. Like, there was Closer, which got nominated for the Golden Globe drama, but I don't know. I don't think, actually...
It only got the 2 acting nominations at the Oscars, though. It didn't get a screenplay nomination, didn't get a director nod. I don't think it was that close for a picture either.
Yeah, I mean, I think it may have been number 11 or whatever. And then there was Phantom of the Opera, which got, you know, Critics' Choice and Golden Globe, but the reviews for that movie were god-awful. And I think it was more so like Babylon, where it rode high with those early, you know, precursors, but then once it sat with people, they went, "Oh, I know, we fucking hate this movie." Yeah. So it's like, even though it did kind of overperform in some nominations, like, you know, it got cinematography, even though it got it nowhere else. And it got production design, and weirdly enough, it didn't get costume design, which, how does Phantom of the Opera miss for costumes? Like, that was kind of weird. And, you know, one could argue Collateral, because, wait. Oh, yeah, no, the director, I don't think the director got nominated for, yeah, the director didn't for...
Yeah, Michael Mann was he only got his Oscar nomination for producing The Aviator, which, funny enough, he was actually supposed to direct that movie until it was passed eventually along to Martin Scorsese. And get this, I'm not sure if you know about this either. Christopher Nolan was going to do a version of The Aviator with Jim Carrey, which I found really, really interesting. But once he found out Martin Scorsese was going to do it, he's like, all right, we're dropping it.
I think
and then he beat him at the Oscar years ago. It's like this is what you get for doing The Aviator before me. Yeah,
and if I'm not mistaken, I think Jim Carrey was actually writing the screenplay with Christopher Nolan.
Oh wow, okay.
Oh my God, because like Jim Carrey's like one of my favorite actors, and you pair him up with Christopher Nolan, my all-time favorite director. It's like, I need these two to work together one of these days. God, I guess it kind of depends, but you know, man, that would have been so crazy. But then again, it's like, I think that would have also completely reshaped Christopher Nolan's entire career, because I do think that would have been a big Best Picture contender, given how it's a biopic.
Yeah, maybe. I mean,
Like,
I'm glad it took him this long as it did, because he did have to mature a bit. I mean, well, that's a whole other thing we can get into with Nolan in of itself, that I would like to dive into one day down the road. Going back to the other screenplay lineup, though, the other film that I want to discuss, and I'm not sure if you got a chance to rewatch it before we talked about Eternal Sunshine for the episode, I finally rewatched The Aviator. I don't know about you, Christian. It had been years since I last saw this all the way through. And I held off on my rewatch for a while because I remember not really liking it that much on my first time rewatch. Like, I remember there were aspects about it I appreciated and I admired, but overall it was not really that great of a film, even by Martin Scorsese standards. And I rewatched it whenever, what was it, a couple weeks, a couple days ago. And I thought overall, meh. Like, there's a lot to admire about the film, and I'll say compared to a more recent non-R-rated Scorsese film I wasn't the biggest fan of, Hugo. I actually think the technical work involved with The Aviator is really impressive. The editing work by Thelma Schoonmaker is impressive. Great cinematography, great production design, costume work is great. Nothing about it is inherently bad from that angle, and I actually like the supporting cast of this ensemble, from Alec Baldwin to John C. Reilly. Great to see him in a dramatic role. Because once again, it's like, hey, where's John C. Reilly? Why isn't he doing more dramas instead of comedies?
and this is like a couple of years after he got an Oscar nomination for Chicago.
Yep. And then even Kate Blanchett, who's really good in the movie too. I'm glad that she was able to get her Oscar win, although it seemed pretty clear. It's like, yeah, we all know why she was going to win, because you guys screwed her over for Elizabeth, and by the time she finally got nominated, it's like, okay, we don't know when she's ever going to win another Oscar. And then, what was it, like almost 10 years later, they're like, all right, here's another one for Blue Jasmine. But the one, really, the two biggest, or at least the 1-2 punch for me as to why I'm not on board with the movie is the screenplay. There's too many ideas going on in this film, even for a biopic, that I thought tries to tackle a lot of Howard Hughes, but it doesn't really dive into some of the more personal issues enough for me to really care emotionally about the character. And the biggest one, and I know I'm going to get a lot of shit for this,
Oh,
I don't think DiCaprio is that that well casted for this role. I think if he could play this role now, maybe I could see him pull this off. But back then, I'm like, nope, I don't buy him as this adult version of Howard Hughes. He seemed very much like the equivalent of your grandchild picking out grandpa's clothes and dressing up as Halloween. And that's all it came across to me in that performance. Like, I didn't really understand the hype behind that performance at all. And much like Timothée Chalamet, A Complete Unknown, this was DiCaprio's second Oscar nomination, which gained a lot of respect from industry voters and even industry people themselves, to where people are like, oh, wow, this guy's actually maturing as an actor, and we should really take him seriously. Like, he really wants to do this. And much like DiCaprio did, Chalamet also decided not to do the superhero stuff. He's like, no, I actually want to do character study movies. I want to, push myself, go the distance and push beyond my limits and actually work with these really talented directors and filmmakers involved. And look where DiCaprio is now. He's finally got an Oscar win. He's worked with so many of these directors, obviously with Scorsese. He's worked with Ridley Scott. There's other directors I'm
Nolan,
fumbling.
Spielberg.
Yeah, Nolan's another one. Spielberg. Oh yeah, Spielberg. Yeah, with like Catch Me If You Can. So yeah, I really, like I said, the two biggest issues I have with The Aviator is I don't think the screenplay is that well tight of a script, and I just don't think DiCaprio is that well cast in the role. Like, I see him trying to put as much into the role. Like, I see there's a lot of effort being put into this character, and he did a lot of research on OCD and even learning how to fly planes themselves, to be like, he knows the basic gist of it. Not that he's not gonna be like Tom Cruise where he's gonna fly the actual damn plane, but he still wanted to learn more about aviation. But at the same time, I'm like, it just comes across as like very meh. So,
like, the funny thing is, I was on board. Like, I did quite like The Aviator, and I don't mind Leonardo DiCaprio on the film. The one part where it does lose me is like that final bit in the film where like he's like gross and he's like pissing in bottles and his nails are long and his hair's long and like that's the one part where it kind of lost me. I was like, all right, I think we're like I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is about the makeup that didn't really seem all that convincing to me, or just like I don't know what it was, but I just feel like that part I don't think needed to be in the film. I do like the idea of you know, his rise to stardom, and you know, him building these planes, and you know, then that crash happens and dealing with the legal ramifications of that. I like that, but I just don't know if that one bit later on in the film was all that necessary, or even if it was necessary, I don't think it was handled all that well, because that's where things started to feel a little bit phony.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, yeah, and again, it's like one of the few Scorsese films that I'm just like, I'm not really the biggest fan of, and I like Scorsese as a director, and I think most of the films he's done, even post Aviator, there's a fair amount of them I actually like. The Departed's pretty good. I really like Killers of the Flower Moon. Irishman's pretty great. Yeah, there's just other films that he's done that I like outside of this, and yeah, this is just The Aviator for me. It's just like one of his, weaker films he's done. Quite honestly, I don't know if it's just me or what, but I'd rather just rewatch something like Color of Money again, because I'm like, yeah, it's not a perfect movie either, but at least there's a little bit more into it that I can get on board with, especially that being a little bit more of an interesting film for Scorsese to tackle that isn't a gangster flick. But still, yeah, like, nice attempt, Scorsese, for trying to get yourself out of that box that a lot of directors are stuck with, unfortunately, where they're known for being known as like, oh yeah, that's the guy who could do that one subgenre really well, and that's all he knows for doing. It's like Scorsese at least tried to do other things. But yeah, anyways.
But I mean, to be fair, like, everyone really, really fell head over heels with The Aviator back then.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And I will say, I kind of look at the Best Picture nominees that we had back then, looking at $1 Million Baby, Sideways, The Aviator, Finding Neverland, Ray. I want to know how you would rank them, because the way I'd rank them, it's like, it's not the best lineup, in my opinion. Like, the way I'd do it would be like, funny enough, I think $1 Million Baby was the best out of all of them, and then Finding Neverland, then Aviator, then Ray, then Sideways.
Oh, wow. That's...
I think, don't get me wrong, Sideways, even though I think it's the weakest, I think it's good, but I don't know, I literally forgot about that movie the moment it ended. It's like, oh, okay. Like, again, it's not bad, it's good, but it's just like, nothing really seemed that particularly memorable about it, which is kind of funny considering it may have been number 2 for Best Picture.
I mean... Maybe. Although I did remember at the time people were thinking before $1 Million Baby picked up steam, they're like, oh, I guess Scorsese's finally going to get his big time with director. And it's like, nope, didn't happen.
And the ironic thing with Scorsese is that he only won the Critics' Choice Award. Because then Eastwood wins Golden Globe, then... I don't know which came then, if it was like DJ or BAFTA. Oh wait, no, it was BAFTA. Then BAFTA went to Mike Lee, and then DJ happened and Clint Eastwood happened. So I guess I guess Clint Eastwood's winning. But then again, I don't know how much people took stock into Critics' Choice, into like the Golden Globe DGA thing back then, or if people were still thinking Martin Scorsese was gonna win The Aviator, because that Best Picture race was just really, like, crazy, considering even the BAFTAs gave The Aviator Best Picture, but they didn't give him Best Director, which is really, really weird.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, it just showed a sign of appreciation and respect for The Aviator overall, with him winning with that film winning PGA, BAFTA, and Golden Globes.
Aviator didn't win PGA.
I thought it did.
Nope, it was Sideways. Well, actually, no, you're right.
Yeah,
I got it wrong.
I remember Sideways won Critics' Choice. Okay, yeah.
Sideways won Critics' Choice, Golden Globe Comedy Musical, and then SAG. Yeah. Okay, that was a dumb part of me. Doink. But it's like, but yeah, Aviator won Golden Globe, Drama, PGA, and BAFTA. But it's weird, because with Sideways, it wasn't winning any acting awards, but with The Aviator, it wasn't winning screenplay or director. And then with Million Dollar Baby, like it didn't win any Best Picture awards, but yet it was winning director and was pretty much locked in to win lead actress, even with that Imelda Staunton nomination.
Yeah.
Oh no, the Imelda Staunton win at BAFTA.
Although I personally would have liked to have seen Kate Winslet win for this performance, as opposed to what ended up getting her the Oscar for The Reader, because I did not think that performance was worthy of the win. But that's another story I can get into. That's another ramble I could do for this already long episode. As far as Best Picture lineup goes, Million Dollar Baby is probably my favorite. I'd have to rewatch some of the other films. I remembered really liking Million Dollar Baby. I'll watch Sideways when I cover it down the road on the episode. Aviator's easily the worst of the Best Picture lineup so far. And I do want to revisit Finding Neverland and Ray. I'm curious to know how Ray holds up now after 20 years of already too many musician biopic films. And, even Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story, did like a whole parody of them. And I'm curious to know how Ray holds up now in this era of musician biopics.
Yeah.
And then Finding Neverland. I remember, look, I saw it twice. I showed it to my brother. I remembered liking it. And even though it is very much Oscar bait fluff, I remembered thinking it was a good enough film and was surprised how moved I was by the ending of it. And it is quite a beautiful score by Jan A.P. Kosmarek, who we recently had lost, who I forgot he had passed away recently. But as far as circling it back around to the original screenplay category, since we did a whole, detailed discussion on these films, I was, as far as why I think the choice ended up going to Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, even though they could have given it to The Aviator pretty easily. It was, as you said, it was as we both said in our review for the film, it was the most creative film on the lineup for its brilliant idea and execution, and as well as having interesting discussions about relationships the film tackled in a mature manner, blending different genres together. And memories as well. Blending the different genres together so well it helped too, and becoming a mild box office hit, as well as gaining a cultural following on home media, which is what probably helped it propel itself to the win. And even you said this before, doing well at BAFTA. The fact that it managed to win the BAFTA for editing over the eventual Oscar winner, The Aviator, which is holy shit, what the hell?
Yeah, okay, I gotta talk about this. How did Eternal Sunshine miss editing at the Oscars? How? The movie is the editing. The editing is so well done in the film, and it's so comprehensive and detailed. It's look, because I'm looking at what did get nominated. Okay, I've not seen Collateral, so I can't really speak to that. But it's Finding Neverland's not bad. I love Finding Neverland, but nothing about the editing in Finding Neverland really stood out to me. Ray, I could see where the nomination came from. I have issues with its pacing, which I feel like is a problem with editing. Mm-hmm. But it does have those big moments where he's flashing back to his childhood, or he's having a seizure or something, and it's
a lot of flashy cuts.
Yeah, a lot of flashy cuts. You can see that. And Aviator, it's just the overall technical giant of the year, so it's going to win a lot of those. And with Million Dollar Baby, I'm surprised that didn't win editing, to be honest. I mean, not that it would have been my pick, but it's considering it's a big boxing film that won Best Picture, you would think that would happen. But Eternal Sunshine, and again, I can't really speak to Collateral, but I can only assume, action film, quick editing, I can only assume that. But Finding Neverland getting editing over Eternal Sunshine just doesn't really make a lot of sense to me, considering Eternal Sunshine is way more showy in its editing than Finding Neverland.
Well, I think I remembered Finding Neverland because it's been a while since I've seen it, like I said, but I remembered the editing being really, really flashy. There's a lot of cuts going on in the movie, and, I guess in their mind, more cuts constitute as great editing sometimes. Although we've had some winners and nominees in the past be they're really subdued films still getting into the lineup and even winning sometimes, Sound of Metal.
Anora.
Yeah, Anora. Thank you. Yeah, Anora's another one. I was trying to think of another film that wasn't what's a film that's like Anora but isn't? Okay. But Sound of Metal, Anora, they're very subdued in terms of their pacing. And I have seen Collateral. I'm actually surprised you haven't seen it yet, Christian, because I do like it overall. I don't think it's Michael Mann's best movie. I recall The Insider is probably one of my favorites of his, but Collateral is probably Michael Mann's last good movie he did, in my opinion. Like it's got a great performance by Tom Cruise and Jamie Foxx, who got a weird category fraud supporting nomination. I'm glad that he got nominated for that, but he is a co-lead. He starts the film and he ends the film with Cruise, and okay, but him getting the double nominations just proved, much like Al Pacino, it's like, yeah, he's happening. He's gonna win the Oscar for Ray. He may not win for Collateral, but he's gonna win for Ray.
Yeah, I gotta say, even though he wasn't singing in the film, which is usually is kind of like a points off thing for me when it comes to, music biopics. Like, I do prefer when you actually get someone who can sing the role. But oh my God, he's doing so much in Ray, like where he's like just moving around and doing like the smiling and the piano thing. It's like, holy shit! Like, yeah, I can see why he won the Oscar for that. Like, that is like insane levels of acting right there.
Even in the behind the scenes stuff, because I got a chance to watch some of the behind the scenes featurettes, they had Jamie Foxx put in blind contacts that he'd wear for multiple hours throughout the whole shoot. So he would play blind and even act blind all throughout the films, because there are points in the film where he takes off his glasses and you see him, blind in his eyes. Like he doesn't, you don't see his actual eyes that they are now. So I thought that was pretty cool. And even, Ray Charles even said during a couple sessions, or even a session or two, he's like, yep, Jamie Foxx is the guy. And I recall Jamie Foxx even said he never wanted to learn more from Ray Charles in person, just because he's trying to capture a younger version of him. And by doing so, if he mentored more from Ray Charles from the older version, he wouldn't be able to nail down that performance as well as he would have if he had done more training with him, even though he learned a fair amount from him and Quincy Jones as well, in terms of getting the character down and honing in the skills. And he already knew how to play piano too, which I find funny. Like, Taylor Hacker did not know that Jamie Foxx already knew piano. So it's like, oh, well, I already got my work cut out for me. So, okay, so now I could do like wide shots where I'm panning up from your hands on the piano to you up on the, lip syncing to the music. But yeah, like I said, I'll definitely rewatch that down the road for sure. But yeah, as far as the editing lineup, yeah, I guess it kind of makes sense as to why Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind missed. Neverland was really flashy with its editing. Collateral, and that's the other thing about Collateral, is that it's got a lot of great flashy, it's got a fair amount of flashy editing, but there's really good tension building in some of the scenes. Like, there's a conversation, I won't go too much into it, but there's a point where Tom Cruise and Jamie Foxx are going to a nightclub, and it's like in the middle of the night, because this is all taking place over one night. And they go to a nightclub and they interact with one of the jazz players, and Tom Cruise is essentially playing like 21 Questions with the guy. And if he gets an answer wrong, then he's going to kill the guy. But if he gets it right, he ends up living for the day. And it's I remember the tension building for that was great. And even some of the other, there's like a nightclub shootout sequence that happens. Javier Bardem plays has a great moment in the film with Jamie Foxx. It's really good. Like, I wish I could go more into it, but I don't want to spoil the movie for you. But it's quite good.
Yeah, yeah, but man, like, would you here's what I'm wondering: would you take The Aviator out in favor of Eternal Sunshine
for editing?
Yeah,
I'd probably take out Finding Neverland maybe for editing, for Eternal Sunshine to get in.
Yeah, I think honestly my lineup would have been a little bit different. Like, I'd keep in Million Dollar Baby. I would definitely put in Eternal Sunshine. But then again, I don't know. I guess I haven't seen Kill Bill Volume 2. The Incredibles, oddly enough, got an Eddie nomination for Comedy Musical Picture.
Yeah. But I was never going to win that category.
Yeah, actually, I lost to Ray.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, which is, again, it's so strange, because, like, Ray does have, like, really flashy editing that I do love. It's just, for some reason, like, around the middle part of the film, I don't know. I forget how long the film isn't. The film like over 2 hours and 40 something minutes long or something. Like it's a long.
Ray's 2 hours and 32 minutes.
Yeah, I feel like you could have cut like a full on half hour of that film out. Like because there were parts of it where it definitely dragged for me.
Yeah.
And with The Aviator, you definitely could have cut that whole bit at the end out. But it's like Eternal Sunshine just not even getting nominated for editing is just like, God, how is it's sort of like when Inception got snubbed out of editing. It's like, how do you do that? Like the editing is like literally like a part of the film. Like it's literally the movie.
I almost wonder if it's because of the genre bias that it might have, because much like Inception, that did have somewhat of a bias. I think I could be mistaken, but I recall that Inception had a little bit of a bias towards the action sci-fi thriller bias, although there are years where the Academy's like, fuck it, whatever, who cares about it? The movie's just that damn good, we'll nominate it. So, I don't know, because even, like, we've already established, though, in other years that Academy voting in terms of nominations and picking the winners are much different, because nowadays now with the new rules instituted of you have to see all the films nominated in order to vote on the winners. But it almost seems like when you're voting on these films to get nominated, it's like, what are some films that I've already seen ahead of time? And as we've already established, Eternal Sunshine took them a while for them to finally get around to it. But once we got to the nomination phase, and it's like, okay, nominations are out, we already know who they are, it probably gave enough of these voters to be like, you know what, let's throw on Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. It's only under 2 hours long, and I hear it's pretty good, and, Kate Winslet's pretty great. She's already got an Oscar nomination for this, so let's watch it. So that might be a reason as to why it got in for, why it didn't get in for editing. I could be mistaken, but it's just a couple theories I have.
It's weird because it did get the Eddie nomination. It won BAFTA, but it got nominated for the Eddie, but it lost the Eddie to Ray, which again, the more flashy editing pick. I think maybe it's also because Eternal Sunshine was still somewhat weak in terms of when you actually look at the Oscar nominations it eventually got, because you could argue Collateral maybe surprise. I don't know, maybe about surprise, because I don't know. I guess Collateral got nominated everywhere it needed to with the BAFTA and Eddie, and Jamie Foxx got nominated everywhere, but it's like Collateral was consistently strong, whereas Eternal Sunshine, you could argue it underperformed at the Oscars, considering how well it did at the BAFTAs with getting Jim Carrey nominated and even a director nomination. And then at the Oscars, it only gets lead actress and original screenplay. So maybe it just kind of also, so I guess maybe it just depends on what, like the BAFTAs just seem to like Eternal Sunshine more than the Oscars did.
Yeah, and also there were, in most cases, BAFTAs are a lot cooler than the Oscars because they'll actually nominate films that aren't even Oscar bait stuff. Yeah, I don't really have much else to say. I mean, other than like lead actor was stacked in of itself. Like you could have made like a whole lead actor lineup with just the Globes alone. I'm looking through what wasn't even nominated for Globes, because I remember there were other actors from that year that was like, holy shit, like they could have gotten in over what we ended up getting.
Yeah, I think Jim Carrey was probably not number 6. I think he was number 7 because Paul Giamatti looked like he was going to be pretty strong. Actually, because Paul Giamatti got Critics' Choice, Golden Globe, and SAG, but it's just Clint Eastwood just got in out of fucking nowhere. Which again, Clint Eastwood was very, very good in $1 Million Baby.
He was, yeah. I'm looking here right now at Golden Globes. Paul Giamatti, Sideways, Jim Carrey, Eternal Sunshine, and then other nominees in like the drama category. You had Javier Bardem, The Sea Inside, and then Liam Neeson from Kinsey, and then I haven't seen DeLovely with Kevin Kline, but I think everyone's favorite everyone's favorite film of all time, or at least favorite performance, was Kevin Spacey in Beyond the Sea.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's clearly what everyone's favorite, that's like, oh yeah, Kevin Spacey, he should have been nominated for this.
Yeah. Oh yeah, like, oh boy. Maybe one of the last things I'll bring up is that I am a little bit surprised that Eternal Sunshine didn't get nominated for score anywhere. Like, even as much as the BAFTAs loved it, no one went for Eternal Sunshine. And as far as I could tell, it wasn't ineligible, unlike Aviator, Collateral, $1 Million Baby, and Ray.
Yeah.
Like, as far as I could tell, it was eligible. It's just no one went for it, which is kind of weird considering... I don't know if you've listened, if you've like gone out of your way to listen to it, but like, the main Eternal Sunshine theme were like, do, 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 do.
Yeah, it's good.
Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised no one really thinks about no one really nominated the score back then. Especially when you had like like The Village was nominated, or the BAFTAs nominated the chorus, or the Globes nominated Spanglish. It's like those movies.
Yeah. Finding Neverland, I think, was the only film that got in at like Critics' Choice, BAFTA, Golden Globe.
It was the only nominee that had any precursors whatsoever.
Yeah.
All the others, Harry Potter, Lemony Snicket, Passion of the Christ, and The Village, all of those just like boop, appeared out of nowhere. Like no other nominations over movies that had precursors like Motorcycle Diaries, Sideways, Incredibles, Spanglish and the chorus, and Aviator, although the Aviator was ineligible, but still. Yeah. And Ray, which is I don't know why Ray got a BAFTA nomination for music or for score. It's like it's literally just Ray Charles songs.
Yeah, I think that pretty much wraps up our long episode. I did my best, and believe me, we have many more discussions for this episode, but this was about as much as I could do before I pull the cord, so to speak. This is not a euthanasia joke, okay? It's not, I swear to God, that was not intentionally trying to be one, okay? It just happened to be that way. So anyways, so before I make any more tasteless jokes unintentionally, is there anything, I obviously want to say once again, thank you, Christian, for coming on to the podcast to discuss this film, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Is there anything you would like to share with our listeners for where it could follow along after the show is done?
I have a YouTube channel called The Hanacast, as you can see right here. The Hanacast, you can find me pretty much everywhere. Hanacast on Twitter. I'm not calling it X because fuck Elon. Blue Sky, YouTube, Letterboxd. I mean, Award Expert. I'm on Award Expert as well, which is Brother Bros. Oscar predictions app. And the funny thing is, speaking of, awards and stuff, I actually have a list or like a series of lists, because if you have the pro tier, like I was given the pro tier, and if you have the pro tier, you can make your own custom categories, and I have a series of I have this one series of lists called If There Were 10 Best Picture Nominees, and I kind of go through and figure out, okay, what if there were 10 Best Picture nominees during a given year, what would have been the nominations? And that's kind of where I came up with the list for for 2004, and I look at the precursors and go, okay, maybe Hotel Rwanda was number 6, Vera Drake would have gotten in, all sorts of fun stuff. And like I said, I'm on YouTube. I have there's a lot of fun stuff I do. I do weekly Oscar predictions, and also I have memberships and stuff, and basically it's just a fun time on my channel, and hopefully we won't have another Honora situation, because God, I can't handle it. Like, if there's one thing I've noticed in the 2020s, it's like when there's a year where I don't like the Best Picture winner, it's followed up with a year where I do like the Best Picture winner, and then it recycles itself. So hopefully this should be the good year.
But regardless of that, I think we could all agree that the film you don't like that has a lead actress contender, by default, that'll be a winner, because you didn't care for Everything Everywhere at Once, Poor Things, and now Honora. 3 years in a row. Let's see if there's a fourth.
I'm trying to remember. Yeah, I guess it was 3 years in a row. Oh, no. But even Tammy Faye I thought was okay. Like, it was like a 6 out of 10, like the decent. But yeah. Oh boy.
Stop ruining the fun for me. I want to torture you with this.
No. Look, I've already gone through enough torture as is with Honora winning 5 fucking Oscars, including editing. That's the most greedy award I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah. Well, regardless, I encourage everyone to follow Christian Hanna if you haven't already, especially through his YouTube page. He's got a lot of great content coming out over the summer, I suppose, and definitely over the award season coming up. Because I won't say anything, but there were some things that him and I have been discussing that we would like to collab on for future episodes. We'll talk about it in a moment, or maybe down the road. I don't know. You'll never know, because it's like, what, we're recording this in May. I'm like, I can do whatever I want with the editing for this. So
Unlike
regardless, yeah. So as for me, you could follow myself and the show through Linktree under @Matthew995, where you could follow on all my social media accounts, such as Twitter and Letterboxd. On the same side, I provide a link where you can listen to more episodes. If you're interested in being in the hot seat, let me know, and hopefully we could arrange that happening soon. In the meantime, we hope you enjoyed listening to this episode, and we hope to see you at the movies. Take care, guys.